Welcome back, everybody, to the Dusty Bender Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Chance Watson, with you as always, Taylor Wells. Episode 113 coming at you, folks, today. Taylor, we inadvertently took another week off. It seems like we mentioned that we were going to do every other week, and then we just decided we were going to do it.
Went ahead and did it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think
I forgive us.
Yeah, I do too. And I think our fans are very level-headed individuals.
Sure.
Every single one of them. So I think that we're going to be all right.
I've only gotten a bunch of hate mail, but it's fine. Yeah.
Where the fuck are you guys?
God damn it. Are you like concerned people? Right? Are you guys dead?
Are you guys all right? You okay?
Yeah. Do you guys need anything? Yeah.
Good fucking shit. So we took a little time off, but we weren't gone by any means. Definitely watching some hockey. We do have a Stanley Cup champion now.
Sure do.
Our picks were incorrect, but that's nothing new, right?
Yeah.
I
was out the first round.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Before we get into it, folks, we need to give some shout outs here. Of course, as with every episode. First off, let's give a shout out to our favorite bar, the Hub Tavern, out in Spokane, Washington, on Monroe. The Hub Tavern in Spokane is your home away from home and the hockey bar in Spokane. Really, arguably the Pacific Northwest, I would say, but definitely Spokane for sure. Part of the Anchor Alliance, the only bar in North Idaho, Spokane area to be on the Anchor Alliance. If you don't count the Moscow one. In any case, the Hub Tavern, absolute beauties out there. I watched a few of the final games out at the Hub. Great fans out there. Definitely have grown a Kraken following because while there definitely were Vegas fans there, and there was even some Florida Panther fans there. Couple, yeah. Kraken games, it's standing room only in that place. Like it's packed nut to butt. So definitely established itself as a Kraken bar. But hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with it. Go on in and check out the Hub Tavern. They always have awesome deals going on. You can basically guarantee that any sort of hockey that's on, they will have the channel for you and be able to throw that game on. I think the event that they probably have coming up is the draft party.
Yeah.
Go on in. They have lots of great deals, lots of fun things to do, and usually some trivia. That's always a blast. You can go in and hear some of Dave's terrible jokes. Sorry, Dave, they're great jokes. I apologize. Go in and have a laugh and have a few beers.
Yeah, buddy. I mean, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and when you mention, if you go in, mention that you heard about them from the Dusty Bender podcast. Dave might throw something at you. Whether it be a discount or a rock or whatever,
salt shaker.
Yeah, who knows? It's probably whatever is close enough for him to grab to throw. So we'll see. Could be a beer.
I'm just imagining him throwing something, but he's got like a shit-eating grin on his face the whole time. So he's under the bar, reaching as he's like, "Oh yeah, welcome in. Glad you're here from the Dusty Bender podcast." Bang,
bang,
his fucking face.
That's how you get your beers. Would you take that trade? Say you got a free beer, but he had to throw it at you.
Oh.
Do you take the trade?
I think if I just don't know how much beer I could catch. You know what I mean? Like, like, I don't know. I can't get my mouth that wide. So
what if he threw just an unopened can at you? Like you got to take the hit every time, but it's a free beer.
Depends on the distance.
Okay. There's a lot of factors that come into play in this.
Yeah, there is.
Really breaking this down.
It's like face is off limits, but
yeah, it's like that old. I recently heard a very deep philosophical discussion recently. It was a tale as old as time, really. Would you rather suck one dick 10 times or 10 dicks one time?
The best video of this question is the guy, the like military guy, and he has the fattest fucking bottom horseshoe lipper in. Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, that's a great question." And
it's a great question.
Like,
fucking A.
Thinking about it, Well, if it's one dick, then it's like love and shit. And I'm like,
right, there's some commitment there.
I mean, for me, it's one dick because I don't know where the other 9 dicks have been. At least I know that one dick is potentially disease.
Like we said, there's a lot of factors at play here.
Sure.
A lot of what ifs, a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Yeah. Yeah. And is there free beer involved, right? I'm not sucking these
Right.
dicks just for fun, you know?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Free beer changes a lot of things.
That's right.
That's
That's right. It's the new crackhead.
yeah, absolutely. Speaking of beer, while I was at the hub recently, I did partake in a special third line hockey beer that was there by Payette Brewing Company.
Oh.
That was for their local Spokane tournament. Congratulations to the winners of that. I wasn't able to go to the draft party where everybody got drunk and got to pick players, but it looked like an absolute fucking blast. I talked to a lot of players that were there. They were coming in after games. Looked like an absolute fucking great time. Glad everybody had an awesome time. I actually won a shirt that says Third Line Hockey on it, so that was pretty sick.
That is pretty sweet. Do you know where Payette Brewing is from?
I think it's down south, right? Down in Boise.
Yep, good guess, man.
Yeah, there you go.
See,
I know these things. So yeah, shout out to the Third Line Hockey folks. I believe they have a tournament coming up here in St. Louis. That is the next tournament that they have. If you guys want to know more about Third Line Hockey and the many tournaments that they have going on across the country with their very spiffy and cool themed jerseys, check out Third Line Hockey, their website, and on social media, Facebook, that kind of thing.
Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah, sad to miss it, but you know, I'm glad they had a good time.
Yeah, it looked like an absolute blast, and they looked really good in those jerseys. Like 100% looked good in those jerseys.
Nice.
Last up, shout out to longtime fan John Miller, Fire Chief John Miller. He's been pretty busy out in the Silver Valley for a county of 13,000 people. He's been dealing with quite a bit lately. So hats off to you, John. You're putting up the good fight there and continuing to save idiots like us.
I'm sure it's in the summer. It's campfires turning into wildfires. In the winter, it's probably fucking cook houses and shit that blow up. So
I was the editor for that paper out there for 6 years. Every year I wrote a story about somebody dying on Memorial Day weekend doing something fucking dumb.
God.
Like it was a problem.
Good God, man.
Yeah, between four-wheelers and people falling in the river, it was very dangerous.
Yeah. I did a little camping over Memorial myself, and yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Even down here, there's fucking nut jobs, man.
Crazy. Well, it sounds like you won't have enough free time to go camping anymore soon because you're now finally not an unemployed bum.
Yeah, everyone listening to the podcast isn't paying my fucking bills anymore. So, yeah, it's gonna be really weird not to watch Netflix all day.
Damn.
Suckle at the government teat.
Ah, man, it's that government teat. It's just there, you know.
It is. It's pokey and supple.
Oh yeah, and then it always comes back to get you because they'll tax you for something.
Well, and I even, I'm sitting here. I'm like, fuck. I need to go get something. I got to go work at a golf course or something.
Right.
They take that out of your unemployment. So why the fuck do I don't have any incentive to go get a fucking little job like that? It's pointless. It's just, yeah, I don't know, man.
I don't think when it comes to the federal government, there's a lot of sense really sometimes.
Nah, there's like one brain cell between the 400 people in seats around our country.
Fuck. And the bureaucratic nightmare that's there. All right, this is not a fucking angry libertarian podcast.
Hockey!
This is a hockey podcast. So let's dive into it. Folks, we have, as of yesterday, we're recording this Wednesday, June 14th in the afternoon. We have a new official Stanley Cup champion, the Vegas Golden Knights.
Sure
and
do.
My initial thoughts on this are good for them.
Yeah, there's guys on that team that just could take a nice sucker punch.
Okay.
Blink at it. But and there's some fans that could probably do it too, but at the same time, good fans.
Okay. So for new listeners to the show, before the Kraken even became a thing, I was a Golden Knights fan. Their mascots, the mascot and I share the same name. I liked, the background of the team and all that kind of stuff. Obviously wasn't happy how they handled Fleury. They were being, cold and calculating, but it's hockey, right? So like if you are the coldest, most calculated dick on the planet, but you win the cup, then you're a fucking galaxy brain genius and it was all worth it.
Right.
You know, every single move because that's how hockey GMs work. Every single move that they did was now completely justified.
Sure.
And it worked, you know, the whole Fleury situation, signing Leonard to a long-term contract only for him to break both of his hips and then have 4 goalies. All of that was planned. It all worked out in the end.
It was.
And
yeah, that's textbook.
You've got like fucking
bringing quick at the deadline because you're like, who the fuck is going to be in net? And then you realize you have 6 goalies.
Kenny Holland's taking notes during the Cup final. Find 4 goalies.
You know what teams need to be taking notes on? Find Bruce Cassidy and find Ivan fucking Barbashev.
Yeah. Oh my
That's all
God.
you fucking need, dude.
Holy shit. So before we get into the celebrations and stuff, let's break down the series because we didn't give out an episode during it. My initial thoughts on this are it went to the better team.
It did.
Now we'll get into the specifics of why they were the better team but I don't think that the Florida Panthers were the better team in a single game. I think it's even hard to say that they were the better team in many of the periods, you know?
Yeah.
At best, I would say that some of those periods were draws. The one game that they won, they did not outwork the Golden Knights. They kind of just pull, you know, it's hockey. You can pull out a win sometimes.
Sure.
I think that the Golden Knights were just better from start to finish. That first game, when you felt, you know, the paddle save by Aiden Hill, that was just a sign of like, ooh, this Vegas is not gonna fucking take no for an answer.
Yeah, I honestly felt like Florida did put up a little bit of a fight in that first game until the paddle save, right? And then it was just like, what the fuck do we got to do? And it's
right.
just, you know, the minds start running your body. So yeah, I mean, you know, good for them. I honestly, like, as a fan of an expansion team, right? Like, I want that to be the Kraken in 4 years.
Hey, this is good news right? For us.
Yeah, it can be done.
It can be done, and I think that. So, yeah, breaking down the series again, like you said, game 1. I don't think that was definitely wind out of the sails, the paddle save.
Yeah,
but you know, game 1 ends. It was still close enough to where you're like, all right, you know, this could be a series. And then game 2 is more the same, where Vegas just kind of controls the play. It always just felt like they were in control. It always felt like Florida was the underdog. It never had that magical moment that Florida had in all the other series where you're like, oh my God, Florida is somehow the better team right now and just working the shit out of them. It never felt like that. It always felt like every game, every period, Florida was skating from behind. They were having to skate uphill. They were playing catch up the entire time, playing to the Golden Knights pace. Now, you know, game 3 they took home. Glad that Florida got a Stanley Cup final win at home. That was probably really cool for the fans, and still gave them a little hope. But I watched that game, man. Like, it's not that they didn't deserve it. It's just one of those coin flip games.
Yeah.
And they won it on chance. Game 4, they didn't fucking deserve that. That ping pong goal where was it Montour fires it off somebody's
it was like 2 or 3 guys before it went in.
All Golden Knights. Have you ever seen a more bizarre goal in the Stanley Cup final?
No, but it's just that'll happen, right?
Sure. But you know that was a 3-2 game and it was only that way because of that bizarre goal. You know, if you don't have that, it's 3-1 and the Golden Knights are, you know, skating off pretty handedly, and they still won that game. So,
I mean, realistically, to go back to game 3,
the
refs tried to give it to the Golden Knights anyways, man. So it could have been a clean sweep.
Oh my God.
It could have been a clean sweep. That was by far the worst penalty I've ever seen.
It's almost like we don't talk about officiating on this show anymore because we're so sick of, like, what else is there to say?
Right.
Like, what else is there to add to the conversation of officiating is officially like some of the worst we've ever had in a game, especially at least as long as you and I have been alive.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is that there's just no direction anymore with it. I think that no one knows what an NHL ref is supposed to do. I don't even think they know what they're supposed to do because,
well, it's a lose-lose situation, right? So they're basically like, fuck me if I call it, fuck me if I don't, right? So it's like, you know, what the, and then I got to even shit up, and then I can't call anything in the last 2 minutes, and then it's just there's so much going on in your fucking head if you're a ref. It's crazy.
Sure. But it was more of like when we were growing up, I feel like reffing was a bit more understood. Like you still didn't like the ref, but it was understood that only like the most flagrant, blatant things are going to get called, and refs are there more to do balance of power. So like everyone gets 1 to 3 penalties a game. You know, like we're gonna make sure that the number of penalties is even, and we're not gonna call it actually how it is.
Right.
Now it's kind of nebulous. Like you don't necessarily know. Like, are we calling everything? Because if the NHL comes out tomorrow and says we have 0 tolerance on all this shit and refs are going to call everything strict, I think a lot of people would be upset with that. But you understand it and you would respect it when they start calling everything. But that's the problem. I think the most thing we talked about this on the show 1,000 times: consistency. I think we get so frustrated with the consistency of the reffing.
Yeah.
It either call nothing and let the players police the game themselves. And when I say nothing, I mean, I'm talking like 1 to 3 penalties a game and keep it even, or call the fucking game.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, I think the easiest answer for this is blatant, right? If you call a penalty, and maybe the key here is they just feel the need to instantly throw the arm up, right?
Mm.
So something happens, trip, check to the head, something like that, right? And they instantly throw the hand up. Maybe maybe they got to take a beat, right? Or maybe there's got to
Yep.
be a way to delay that a little bit, right? You know, I don't know. There's got to be something better because, yeah, it's just fuck. They throw their arm up for everything, or they don't throw their arm up, and then when they do, it's a fucking terrible one with 11 seconds left in
Yep.
the fucking Stanley Cup Finals. Like
God, that
it's
was
just
such a terrible
that's
call.
terrible,
It's such
terrible call,
terrible call. Absolutely terrible call. Like it wasn't, it was so off. And I think that's where the frustration comes in, is because like, oh, you're finally going to make a call and that's it.
And that's the one, right?
Like
Come on, dude.
a lot of guys see it, I don't have much time for the argument of like, you're going to call that right now, because that implies that it was a penalty. And it's just like, how dare you make that call at this time,
Right.
at this juncture in the game? I don't like that, because at the end of the day, like if you are down 1 goal with, limited time left on the clock, maybe don't cross check a guy in the face,
Sure.
or don't do that. Like that's not the time to do that right now. So I understand that, but that call in game 3 where he didn't even make fucking like it was so blatantly, horribly not a penalty.
Horrific.
It was just bad. So it's either one of two things, and neither are good options for a ref. Either he's incompetent, saw it, thought it was a penalty and was wrong, which just means he's bad at his job, or B, he knew it wasn't a penalty and called it anyway for game management.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Just based on where he was,
yeah,
I don't know how you make that call, man. I don't. It's just, to me, like he was in. So the play was on. If I'm Bobrovsky, right, and I'm looking up the ice, the play's coming down on my left side. The ref that called it was in the fucking right corner, where, to me, really what that looks like is he probably fucking zoned out.
Yep.
Saw Stevenson, or I think it was Stevenson. Saw somebody on the night.
Yeah,
I think it was
Stevenson took the
right?
dive. Yeah.
Yeah, and then saw him on the ice and went, "Oh fuck, I gotta do my fucking job," right? Like,
Right.
I hate to say that's what it was, but like, come on, dude, you have the best view of what happened. The only way you could have known any better is if you were in Chandler Stevenson's fucking brain. Like,
Right.
it just kills me. Yeah, that was a bad one. The other ones that bugged me were the obvious, frustration from game 2.
Sure.
Right. But the two hand, tap to whoever's fucking stick was holding it, and Kachuk got a fucking game or a 10-minute out of it.
Oh yeah,
Get the fuck out of here, dude.
the movement of the rat and shit. Like, oh yeah, that was just
That's
fucking.
such garbage. That's such a fucking. That's just a power trip, man.
It is.
And that, yeah, it just. And to be honest with you, the refing, in my opinion, did get better. Right. I think Game 4 and Game 5, the refing was a little bit better. I think it was a little more consistent. I think you're
It
going to
was
hear people that
still.
say,
It was still more of a factor than I would like.
sure, I
But
agree.
but I agree with you. It wasn't like we've seen worse.
Sure.
We've
It
definitely
wasn't
seen worse.
blatantly shitty.
That's not a great compliment, but
Sure.
we've seen worse. We've seen worse playoff reffing and officiating. I think God, I still last year, man. Last year was like a high point of just terrible reffing.
It was bad.
It was super bad. So okay, let's dig into this a little. So Game 5 comes around. We go back to Vegas. It's 3-1. Vegas remembers that, oh, we're way better than you. We're way better than you. We're at home. We're going to win the cup. Like I've already booked like the champagne room at the strip club that's going to give us free lap dances for the rest of our lives. Like we're winning the cup tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that situation where like I texted, they were up 2-0. I texted you, I was like, oh, this is done.
Yeah, it's over.
And then they got one. I'm like, okay, maybe. And then I literally went from one bar where it was 2-1. It probably took 10 minutes to go to the other bar down the street that I watched the rest of the game at, and it was 4-1.
Yep.
I'm like, ooh, shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
dumb.
And
that's the thing though, right? So when you were texting me 2-0, right? This is over. You got that feeling though, right? Like
yeah.
you just the vibes, the energy, from Florida, and it just felt all series like Florida needed to get, they needed to have a lead at some point, right? And
Yeah.
I'd be hard pressed. This is somebody
I don't
that
think
stats
they
a
did.
little better than we do. I don't know if they had a lead at
I don't.
all besides Game 3 in OT, right? Like that's their only lead, and it was for 0 seconds,
Sure.
right? And I just felt the whole series like they were treading water, right? You're just
They were.
trying to fucking stop them from scoring another fucking goal,
So let's dig into why. So let's start with Vegas. Let's give credit where credit is due. Vegas
Good
has
team.
an incredibly deep roster.
It's a good team.
Bruce Cassidy was smart enough to, he broke up the Golden Knights. He spread the talent around. He benched Phil Kessel, probably a smart move.
Yeah. To make cheeseburgers.
This team has been built to win. And I think there is an argument to be made that they were just this good last year. But I think we talked about this at the end of last season. Like the number of man games they lost due to injuries last year was like ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It was like over 1,000.
I want to go back to your point that you made, I think kind of our pre-cup final.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was almost before the playoffs. I liked what Vegas did at the deadline.
Yes.
Right. And that goes back to the Barbashev. I already kind of brought him up, but you brought it up in a previous podcast. They did what a good Stanley Cup champion does, right? They load up on the back end and the bottom two lines and that kind of stuff. And that's the first time we've seen them do that. And holy shit, it's a working fucking formula. Who would have thought? So
who knew aggressively making your team better through acquisition leads to winning the cup? Who knew?
Weird. Yeah, it's bizarre behavior from a GM.
It's very it's this archaic mentality of like, no, we're gonna tread water for 5 to 10 years, and hopefully my 87th round draft pick will finally blossom, and I'll throw a dartboard and I'll get the next fucking Hendrik Zetterberg. I hate that mentality because it's almost an excuse of like, I either don't have the authority to make this team better, or I'm scared to make any moves.
Yeah.
Because I care about my job more than actually taking a risk and trying to win with this team. Like we'll get into Dubas in a little bit. You can't, look at on paper, no context whatsoever. Did Dubas achieve much with Toronto? No.
Sure.
Technically not. He made the playoffs, which is impressive, like every year. But no, not a lot of significant wins. Is that his fault? Not at all. Not that is what he assembled. By all intents and purposes, even Toronto fans will admit that's a great team. That's a good team that continues to underperform, and we can get into Toronto later. This right here, this Vegas Golden Knights team has been in the works forever. Like, I mean, since the first year when they realized that they caught lightning in a bottle, McPhee and McCrimmon have been working their asses off, and Foley have been working their asses off to improve this. They even said we'll win a cup within 6 years.
It's pretty badass.
They called it year 6, man.
Pretty badass.
It's fucking, that's awesome. That's, I mean, it's not necessarily the prediction from Messier in the early 90s, but man, it's something. And oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to hammer that point home, right? If you look even as early as last year for Colorado, right? Who did they bring in? What big name did they bring in to that team in order to get over the hump?
Darren Helm.
Fuck. fucking Josh Manson, right? Like Cogliano, like guys that are just fillers, right? They
but
somebody
but
goes
solid
out and
fillers.
They go in. I agree. I think like a Barbashev, right? That's a great filler. Even
the word you're looking for is a trustworthy player.
Trustworthy player. That's fine. I think for me, what Tampa was trying to do with Tanner Jeannot, right? That's the recipe, man. That's what you do if you already know that you have a good team. And this is where the New York Rangers showed us why the other direction doesn't work as well, right? Bringing in Tarasenko and Patrick Kane when they needed some guys that could go in and fucking bang a little bit, right? So I just
maybe there's some logic to that. Maybe there's some logic to that in the sense of like if you go out, like if you're at the deadline and you're a set playoff team, but you're going at the deadline and you're genuinely considering picking up star talent, like first to second line talent, second line. If you're looking at genuine first line talent, maybe your team isn't built for the playoffs.
Sure.
Like if you've gotten this far and you're still looking for a bona fide number one center or something like that, you might have deeper problems.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like maybe you're not set. If you're the Vegas Golden Knights and you're like, my top 2 lines are set. Like I don't need to go get another Jack Eichel. I don't need a Timo Meier.
Right.
Like I'm just going to firm up my base, make sure I've got solid guys. Like, and Barbashev, I mean, who could have predicted Barbashev was just going to be a fucking stud?
Who could have predicted? I mean, Marchessault is a good player. Don't get me wrong. Who could have predicted he's going to be the Conn Smythe?
I fucking love Marchie. Has been my favorite player since day one for the Golden Knights. I fucking love that guy.
He's a punchable face, dude.
I know, 100%. He's a low key rat.
He is Brad Marchand light. I was telling you this when we were on the phone. He is Brad Marchand light, and
100%.
You hate to love him if you're Vegas, and you love to hate him if you're anybody else. So.
Oh yeah, he's got a mouth on him for sure. But that's we just got done singing the praises of a guy on the other team. I don't know if you've heard of this guy, Kachuk.
Oh sure, yeah.
This guy, I mean, he's bringing back old time hockey essentially, and everybody fucking loves him. I wouldn't be surprised because this is how the NHL works. Zegras got the star treatment because he was in the spotlight for 5 seconds for picking the puck up and lacrossing it in, even though he was on a bad team. Now Matthew Tkachuk is now in. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tkachuk, even though Golden Knights won this year. Tkachuk's probably on the cover of NHL 24.
I think there's a little bit more to that. I think those kind of guys do have a personality, right?
Yeah.
Matthew Tkachuk has a personality. Zegras has. Moritz Seider has a fucking personality.
We're
right?
so hungry for hockey players with personalities.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking Connor McDavid is the most boring man on the planet.
Sure.
Like, not even from I hate taking this from the marketing perspective. I work in marketing and whatnot, and I hate to do that because at the end of the day, it's not about marketing. Like it's about winning the cup. I don't care if Connor McDavid is stone-faced all the time and has the personality of a fucking rock. Sure. At the end of the day, he's the best player in the world, and I'm never going to get rid of him, especially if he's just not good in interviews. Like, it's just not going to happen. Right. That being said, like, that's from the marketing perspective, like, McDavid's just not marketable.
Right.
He's just not. Yeah. Marchie is.
Yeah, it's true.
Chuck, really is. Like I said, he's probably, I would put him as the gambling odds front runner to be on the cover of NHL 2024.
Yeah, I think
that or somebody from the Golden Knights. Stone,
yeah.
probably Stone, maybe.
Stoner with his never scored a goal before in his life. Stone, you mean?
Fucking
Christ,
okay.
Man. It's only because I don't like the Golden Knights.
Yeah, okay. I was
so
gonna say, like,
I understand. I like the passion. I like all that shit.
I love that.
I'm not a Golden Knights guy, so
I love that.
To me,
Ovi has scored 1,000 goals. Like more goal. I don't know how many goals Ovi has scored. A lot. He's scored a fucking lot of goals. Every time he scores, he acts like it's his first fucking goal, and he's so excited because he understands that he's playing a game for a living, and it's the greatest fucking thing on the planet. I love that. I love the passion. I love that guys love hockey, and Stone going out and scoring a hat trick in the Stanley Cup clinching game. Fuck, man, scream all you want. Good for you.
Yeah, but then there's also footage of him two-handing a stick out of a guy's hand, not getting a penalty, and then walking down to the other end and fucking diving and get a penalty. So,
sure.
And I get it, right? Like, that's what you do to win the cup. Yeah. But that's fuck, man.
It sucks.
I don't know. I'm not.
It sucks.
I don't hate Stone. I totally understand. I understand his value and shit. Like, fuck. If Stone was on, if Stone was on any of the California teams, I'd still hate him. If Stone was on the Kraken, I'm sure I'd love him, right?
I'd love Stone on my team.
It's the same thing, right? So, like, it's just, yeah. I want him to be sad, and he got to be really happy this year, and that sucks.
That's fair. And I think most of that hatred comes from, and I will sympathize with this, Golden Knights fans. Like, Golden Knights fans are pretty rough. They're fairly toxic. At least Twitter amplifies everything, but and you know what? I'm never gonna. The only reason I kind of backed out of the whole fight and didn't dogpile on Vegas fans is because, like, they were mostly directing it at, like, Toronto people.
Yeah, which is pretty.
And I was totally okay with that. So, like, Toronto fans are trying to recover. Oh, go onto Twitter right now. Find any Toronto fan account. They are 100% trying to get any dignity that they can get left by just dunking on the Florida Panthers. It's like, dude, they fucking cleaned your clock.
Yeah, you still lost.
Like, you got to the second round. They fucking gave you a gentleman's sweep. And then they went to the Stanley Cup final and did something that you have not done in quite a long time. Like, they're better than you. They just are.
I think it's Toronto's so fucking salty. It's hilarious. Like, Toronto it was basically like Vegas and Toronto cheering for Vegas.
Yeah,
exactly. Everyone else, but yeah, God, Toronto, dude. Toronto would have lost in 2 games in the fucking final.
They would, yeah. Oh, they would.
They would have somehow just, like, made it 2 games and they would have lost.
There's no way. That team's not. We can get to the Toronto later, but no, I think that Vegas overall, to kind of wrap up why Vegas was good in this, like, all their players, first off, health. Like, it seems like there were no major injuries with these guys. Their lineup was solid front to back. I mean, you look at this. This is a Stanley Cup winning team. You look at from first line to fourth line. You've got solid names, trustworthy names. You look at the defense. Fuck, man. I know he's not a household name really, but he falls into my cat. I love reliable, solid defensemen, and Zach Whitecloud is so underrated in this degree. Like, the guy is so reliable, and he's a third line defenseman on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you've got Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore and Alec Martinez going out there, like, it's such a deep team. They played quite well. It seems that all of these players, the stars aligned basically when Cassidy came in. Cassidy comes in, implements his system, knows how to work this team. Apparently is the goalie whisperer because, some people are embellishing saying that Aiden Hill was their 4th-string goalie. Aiden Hill was not their 4th-string goalie.
He's backup all year. I mean, Logan Thompson got off to a hot start. Aiden Hill was the backup.
Right.
And then
Brossoit comes in, plays a little bit.
Right. Hill and him kind of switched up a little bit, and I think Hill got a little bit hurt.
You could, I would argue that Hill was, I would love to see the percentage of games that he played in the year. I would probably guess what 30%, 40%.
Yeah, I'd probably put it closer to 30.
If you're if you're swapping around, Thompson, so Thompson, Brossoit, and then even Quick got a couple games in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they were hoping Quick would do something, and he did not.
No, but that's insurance, and with Vegas's horrible luck with goalies in the past, you needed it. And look, it obviously didn't hurt, so you can't complain.
Aiden
This was
Hill played 27 of 82 games for the Golden Knights.
okay, so was kind of close. That sounds. I'm not a math guy, but that sounds like 30%.
Yeah, pretty close.
Okay. So there's nothing wrong, and it's not. I think that he didn't play. I wonder what does it say? What his season save percentage was?
Season save percentage was 0.915 and a 2.5 goals against average.
Kraken fans would kill for that save percentage.
Oh God, yeah, man.
I would kill for Grubauer or Jones to have had that. So yeah, there's nothing right. So is it a come from behind story where he comes out of the woodwork? I wouldn't say that, but sure, I'll give it to you in the sense that no, Aiden Hill was definitely designated, whether it was Logan Thompson or Brossoit, or even if Leonard came back in a miracle, he was relegated to the backup role. I don't think he's not the fourth string.
Not the fourth
goalie.
string.
He wasn't down in Henderson. You know what I mean? Like this is an NHL caliber level goalie, and he definitely got them through the playoffs, and he played great.
Well, and I wouldn't even I wouldn't look at Quick. Leonard probably would have been the starter, right? But obviously, he had his shit. So, I mean,
do you think he even comes back?
No, I think he's done.
Yeah, I think he's done too. Between him being weird and having double hip surgery,
yeah,
he's fucking done.
Oh fuck yeah! Hip surgery for a goalie? Good fucking luck.
Yeah.
The only thing that would be worse is your knees. I mean,
maybe,
but hips, fucking,
yeah,
butterflying. I don't know, man.
It's like, and it was. I mean, that's what ended Rask's career. Remember, Rask? He did all this rehab, and he tried to make a run of it, and he just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Goalie situation is definitely got to be their top priority. I think you're going to see Hill and Thompson. I think even Brossoit could go get a backup job somewhere, but you're not going to keep him over those two young. I'm not saying that Brossoit is that old. I think he's probably like 29.
Sure.
But you're going to keep Thompson and Hill and just run with it. And I think you're going to see them realistically split games pretty even, because Logan Thompson did have a good season when he was kind of starting off hot and then got hurt. But yeah,
I do want to bring up, and this will segue kind of into why Florida did not win. We talk about that. Talk about Florida's now. Look at Vegas's path to the final. Was there some solid teams that they went through? Absolutely, 100%. Was it on paper as tough as what Florida went through to get there? Fuck no.
No.
Fuck no. It's the fucking briar patch that the Florida Panthers had to club through to get to the Stanley Cup final. And you and I actually, going back to our many predictions that we make, I think we did mention that, the odds of a team coming out of the West winning it were good because of just the amount of fucking talent in the East that whoever comes out of the East is just going to be fucking battered. Yeah, and that's not to complete. That's why I wanted to talk about why the Golden Knights won, because they're a great team. They absolutely deserve it. They climbed over some good teams to get there and beat a miracle run team in the final. That being said, I think it's a combination of the magic ran out for Florida and then injuries. Like, it's coming out now, all the fucking, like, Kachuk's, the style of hockey that he plays, they're not going to report on the numerous fucking contusions and shit that they're dealing with. That's all just run of the mill. You assume that they've got those things. Fucking Kachuk skating with a goddamn broken sternum, and Ekblad with two separated shoulders and a broken foot, and it's just ridiculous. Like,
that's so scary, dude.
It's unreal.
I can't even, my old ass can't even fucking imagine doing that shit anymore.
No way.
I know I can remember one for sure that I for sure had a fucking concussion. I got tripped up right into a dude's fucking knee. Just bad. And then I got up and I was pissed, and I fucking took the draw, went in and scored. but dude, they wouldn't let me fucking sleep that night, dude. Like, they knew I had a concussion, but I
Right.
basically just stayed on the ice, you know?
Right.
That's just, yeah, God, I can't even imagine skating with a broken fucking sternum.
Like,
God, and it was from that one hit for sure. It was, who's the one that just crunched him? Was it Stevenson? Someone
yes.
just fucking smoked him. It was a great hit, and it was a suicide pass from his D. It really was, which that's a whole other fucking story. But great, yeah, great fucking hit. But yeah, well, that's definitely the one that did it because he came
I
back. I think that was in game 3 or 4. He did come back and play a little bit, but God, that thing had to be so swollen.
Oh
Holy
God, I
fuck!
can't. And like the sternum pain, like, dude, I have, this is gonna be a long fucking word. I have it's this condition where like the cartilage in your sternum will swell just
Oh,
randomly.
weird.
Oh, it's called like costochondritis or something. But like, as somebody who like has had sternum pain, like, it's so fucking annoying. I can't imagine cracking this motherfucker.
Oh God, dude, you just feel
Like,
like you
I
are
don't know if
so
you know, I don't know if you know this, but your sternum fucking holds your entire skeleton together on your upper body. So
God, what do they do? They have to do surgery, just glue it back together?
I I I don't know. I don't know. I would assume that there's not too much you can do. You just have to stay immobile.
He's like in a breast cast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something. I don't know. I'm not a medical professional. We should get a medical professional to bring on the show. Somebody that was in
Right.
sports medicine.
Yeah.
Some shows do that. Oh, well, what's the course of action for if you have this injury?
Some shows do that. We don't bring anybody on.
No,
We're
no.
selfish. We just want to hear ourselves talk.
That's very true. That
Yeah.
is very true.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So Florida, I think it it does Florida a disservice to say that injuries were not a factor in this. Especially for
Sure.
game 5. Florida just looked so deflated. Like, they looked tired. They looked beat. They looked like all the excitement, all the energy that they had coming in to the final round, it was just gone. Like, they just looked
Yeah.
tired and beat. And I think that plays into the colossal amount of talent that they had to climb over to get here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
I
that's
agree.
it's Boston, Toronto, Carolina stacked up against Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Dallas. Like, no, well, okay, some disrespect. Winnipeg's trash. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the West was already a shit show.
And Dallas was gassed from the Kraken series.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
the Kraken absolutely gave Dallas a run for their money,
So you pretty much played Edmonton.
essentially. And
Yeah.
even then, Edmonton had a tougher series with LA. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, and when you play Edmonton, in my opinion, you're playing Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not trying to take away, I guess, from Dallas and Edmonton, but fuck, man, it just head to head, the path to the cup for Florida was much harder, and
Yeah.
it's impressive that they got over the teams that they did, and I'm very hopeful for them in the future. I think that they've gained a lot of energy and momentum going forward. I think if you tweak the roster a little bit, everybody gets healthy. You still got some big question marks with Bob. What do you do with the goaltending situation there?
Yeah. I honestly, you're running, Bob. You got Spencer Knight back there. I don't think you'll see Alex Lyon. He'll go get a backup role somewhere.
Knight's
But
still in the assistance program, I think.
yeah, I saw him out. He went to like some horse racing. I follow Zegers on
Oh, okay,
everything. She's my, you know, Jesus Cristo.
sure,
Um, yeah, so he was out and about. So I think the last word I heard on him was that like things were trending upward.
that's good.
That's good to hear. But
That's
yeah,
good to
so I
hear.
think I think you do run out Bob and yeah, I mean really conditioning, right? Like I mean, and I think to your point, Barkov got hurt in the Carolina series. He wasn't having a great playoffs to begin with,
He did not.
and
Barkov did not
he
look
didn't do
like
shit,
Barkov.
man. He didn't do shit. So
This
yeah,
was this is a guy. What was it? 2-3 years ago, you and I are sitting here in front of these mics saying that Barkov is one of the most underrated, underappreciated players in the league. He should be
yeah,
in the conversation with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and Nathan McKinnon, and he just doesn't get the love because he's on fucking Florida.
yeah. He
That's
didn't
I
look
mean,
right.
we all had those conversations, and now he just I mean, I don't want to say he played bad. He just wasn't he just wasn't a star
He
player.
just resorted to. He's a very good two-way center.
Yeah.
Right, so he just resorted to playing defense and then hoping that Duclair and I think, no, Verhaeghe was on the second line.
Verhaeghe helped Sam
Cousins?
Bennett.
Was it Cousins? I think it was Cousins that
Cousins
was up with
was
him
on
and
the first
Duclair.
line. You got Sam Bennett in there somewhere.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
I think where you could really point to with Florida, I wouldn't change too much. I mean, I think up front, especially, they looked pretty damn good. I think they have a pretty solid decor. I don't know if any of those guys need to be signed and shit like that. We could probably do our research, but we won't.
Mhm.
So I think you're focusing kind of on those bottom two lines, and you can't hope that fucking Mark Stahl and Radko Gudas have a playoffs again like they did this year, right? I mean, I know they Gudas couldn't stay on Gudas couldn't fucking skate in the finals, so he got rallied like fucking 3 or 4 times,
Yeah, it's
which is crazy.
like I
But
said, not to make excuses because I really am not taking away from the Golden Knights. They are a very solid team.
oh, they were the better
Uh,
team, easy.
there's an argument to be made that they could have done this year or last year if they had a healthier squad. Yeah, Vegas is going to be a force to be reckoned with for probably another 2 or 3 years, I would say.
Yeah,
Before and if they choose to do a rebuild on the fly, which, hey man, they've shown that they are heartless enough to do that. I wouldn't be surprised. It's we were sitting here thinking there's no way they're going to get rid of Marc-Andre Fleury, yet he was the heart and soul of that team, yet they got rid of him. So I mean, anybody is on the table. Riley
yeah.
Smith might be looking at a new home here soon.
Yeah, I don't know. I just if you look at the West, like Dallas is probably the second best team, maybe. Edmonton was
Yeah.
probably right there. But I
Yep.
just, who's ready right now to compete against this Vegas team on the West side of things, and it's just not a lot. As much as we'd like to say it's Edmonton because of McDavid and Draisaitl, man, they got a little ways to go. All right, like there's some
Follow
things
my
they got to tweak.
follow my logic on this. So I mean, you throw Colorado in there obviously as well.
Sure,
The news about Landeskog not coming back next year sucks.
yeah, that sucks for them.
But they could probably put him on IR and use the cap space to fill some holes. So it's not the end of the world.
Sure,
Edmonton is in a situation where they've got the star talent and you're trying to build the foundation. Whereas you got the Kraken, who are the foundation and just need a little bit of star power.
yeah,
It's two sides of the same coin. And I would you could make an argument that Seattle right now is Vegas light, in the sense that the core or the structure of that team is that you are deep from top to bottom. Vegas went and got a star. They got Jack Eichel.
yeah.
Okay, that's what I mean, Marchessault got the MVP. You think what are your thoughts on Marchie getting the MVP? I know you don't, obviously he's a rat, but
Yeah.
deserving? Do you think he's deserving?
Yeah, 100%. You can't lead the playoffs in goals and fuck, he was on a
Sure.
stretch of like
Yeah.
9 games with fucking 9 goals or something stupid, right?
Yep.
So like you can't do something like that and then your team just blow out the team and the other team in the finals, right?
Right.
And not look his direction. I think there's 3 guys on that team that were very deserving of it. Eichel was another one, obviously. He's a little more of a passer.
Mhm.
And then Aiden Hill, man, you can't look past Aiden Hill.
No.
Like you were saying, right? Like a lot of people saying he's a fourth on the depth chart, but man, he played lights out and he just continued it into the biggest stage. Whereas Bob was hung out to dry by his team. He really was. Like it's a lot of people pointing towards Bob.
I wouldn't give any. If you want to analyze this series and look at Florida's play, look at the first 4 games. That 5th game is it's like their will to live had just been crushed. Like
they had already played a round of golf and they were like,
yeah,
this is
they
okay.
were done. So if you're gonna sit here and be like, well, Bob had a really weak game 5, yeah, of course he did. Like they all played. They got 9 fucking goals scored against them. Like
yeah, they were all garbage. Yeah,
they were really bad. They gave up. It's a very rare situation, another dream scenario where fans. I understand why Toronto fans are salty. You've been for some reason committed to this cult for the last 70, 80 years, and you haven't won a fucking cup, and you have nothing to show for it. And Vegas just comes in and does it. Honestly, like I hate that argument because they're like, "Oh, well, they haven't suffered enough." It's not about suffering. It's not about suffering. It's about putting together the right team. You've had 80 years to do it. They've had 6 and they did it first. Like, fuck you.
Yeah. I think almost talking to Toronto fans, you got to look inward, right?
Yeah.
What's your initial reaction when someone has a bad game? It's instantly, let's fire Freddie Anderson into the fucking sun,
Right.
right? Whereas like in Vegas, even though the big Vegas podcast, I think the guy is a little off base pretty regularly, but at the same time, he's not super negative. Like Vegas, he's probably the most negative one, and
Ken is on Sin. I love Sinman, by the way, because
yeah,
he's like Ken is a sky is falling guy. Like
yeah,
there's always an issue. There's always a problem. There's something that there, and that's what makes his show great because you can go down rabbit holes and talk for 3 hours about some hypothetical scenario and over analyzing shit.
yeah,
It makes for some compelling listening for sure. I appreciate it.
yeah,
But at the same time, you're right. Like sometimes he's just pulling at loose drawstrings and unraveling to the point of like, oh, this because you've got Teddy Bluger on your fourth line, you're never going to win anything.
yeah. But I think to that point, right? Like majority of the Knights fan base is just happy to fucking be here. We don't know
Yes.
what the fuck offsides is. We
Yep.
don't know what icing is. But we're
Correct.
just happy to be here and dress up like a fucking knight and
And
unite the realm on the side of a
yes.
fucking Mustang, whatever the fuck it was.
And
Right?
look,
Like they just
I
they
understand the hate. I understand the hate for that specific, and there might even be a little bit of it for me because that pissed me off. But you know what? I'm not going to go full length on that because that's why I like when these teams win. Because the Vegas Golden Knights won, there's now a brand new generation of people who have never liked hockey now into the sport. And I
yeah.
fucking love that.
Yeah. I there was a great post that I can't even tell you the person's name, but they basically said, I didn't even know I liked hockey before the beginning of the year. Now I'm buying season tickets, right?
Yep.
Like that's, and we're probably going to see that in Florida too, right? Like, you know, we've had the cup finals
I hope
in
so.
Florida for the last what, 3-4 years,
Yep.
right? Where like, man, it had, it's going to catch on at some point, and fuck, this was so good for them too. So yeah, I can't complain growing the game like that. And I really, I act like an asshole, but I don't have a problem explaining hockey to people at games,
Sure.
as long as you're not being an asshole when I fucking tell you,
Right.
you know. Um, yeah. So I don't know. It was a boring ass final. It was,
Oh,
but
one of the arguably one of the worst entertainment. When you're in the second period and you know that you're winning the cup,
yeah,
like early second period, you knew it was over.
that
Like
was like
we're
6-3.
right, we're wasting our time at this point.
Yeah.
So I think it was like 6-1.
Oh, it's 6-1. It was
Yeah,
6-1.
no, they only got 2 goals in the third period when it was way out
Yuck.
of hand. It was you knew it was over. You knew this game was over. You knew there was no coming back. Florida wasn't making some sort of desperate attempt. It was done. So unfortunately, that's how it was. It was not very entertaining, but good for Vegas fans. We yielded a few cool things from this. Like I love that this is Vegas's first professional sports franchise. They also now have the win. That's great. Arguably the coolest Stanley Cup win photo, like team photo, has been taken. It was the goal camera like that sits directly above the goal so you can see the goal line of whether the puck crossed or not.
Mhm.
There's a picture of all the Golden Knights behind up against the glass behind the net, but they're like perfectly centered in like they didn't even mean to do it, but they're like in a heart. And Marchie's like everybody's like their faces are eye level, and Marchie's in the center, like looking up. It's a very cool photo. Like
Yeah.
we retweeted it on Twitter. Go check that out. It honestly is one of the coolest championship photos I've seen from a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, fired into the sun.
Fair enough. What'd you think of the cup order? It kind of cool that all the misfits get it first, right?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you start going through the team. that's who's been there the longest, right?
Yep.
So I do like that. I think, that's such a cool way to do it, man.
Yeah, I agree. I think the organization, for how ruthless they have been with their players, but at the end of the day, and this is a perfect segue into our next topics, but like, man, there's too many fucking teams that are just you can get mad at Vegas all you want for being cold and calculating, but at the end of the day, they still have five to six players from that original Misfits team, which is a good core, which shows, and they made moves. Like, they wanted to win.
Yeah.
They took risks. Like, Eichel was not a guarantee.
Yeah.
Eichel, there was no guarantee they were going to win. In fact, the number of people, myself probably included, go back to earliest episodes, thought that there's no way you can win a Stanley Cup with Jack Eichel. He's too selfish. He's too, narrow-minded. He's too not a two-way player. He's just not 500 hockey men material, if that makes any sense. Like, you're not going to do this. They took a risk on him. He also had a neck surgery. Granted, I'm sure they researched the hell out of it to make sure that he was going to be able to play, but you never know with these kind of things. He comes out of a surgery and he might not be the same player. Right. A lot of risks associated with it, and they made the move anyway, and the risk paid off. And they got Petro. They spent a lot of money. They spent a lot of time. They got a good coach, and it worked. You can't get angry at, this isn't like a roll of the dice team where you're like, oh, the stars aligned and this just worked. This wasn't one of those situations. They have been building this for quite a while.
Yeah, I like to imagine that, like, the GM, the summer that they pulled Petro in, was just like at a campsite one time, and Petro happened to be there, and he's just chopping wood. Like, he's just absolutely hammering these logs, and he was like, "That's my guy. That's the guy I want." Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's good.
Just feeding the fire for the whole weekend. And that's what I like to imagine.
I mean, that's what he's going to do after. Well, now that they all have unlimited lap dances.
Yeah, he'll be there for a little bit, and then I don't know. Well, with the amount of fucking children that they had at the celebration, I don't know if lap dances are even allowed in those families.
Probably. Well, I mean, it's Vegas. Who fucking knows, man? Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations to the Golden Knights. Florida, it was nice knowing you. You guys had a great run. Hope the best for you moving forward.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. All right. Taylor, we got a mid-roll, don't we?
Sure do.
All right. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about DraftKings Sportsbook today.
Ooh.
It is after the finals, but there's just 1,000 things to bet on.
There's always something to gamble on.
Always something to gamble on. So it's a little bit hockey oriented, but just kind of imagine what you can now just gamble on. So gamble on the MLS for all baseball. There's plenty.
There you go. If you can stay awake during a game.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a minor detail, right?
I guess you don't have to be awake to gamble on baseball.
Yeah, you can wake up from your snooze in the bottom of the ninth inning and just see if you won.
That's right.
I love baseball, but it can be a little boring. Cool. So light the lamp during the hockey playoffs with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers can make a $5 bet and score $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, as in the Hockey Podcast Network. That's code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline.m.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/hockey terms.
Nice. Got through that quite well.
There you go.
Nice work. All right. Out of the Stanley Cup final. Once again, congratulations to the Vegas Golden Knights. Could be better, but certainly could be worse.
Sure.
Moving on. Some other news out of the hockey world. Folks, the AHL playoffs are still going on. And Kraken fans are probably very excited about that, as the Coachella Firebirds, many familiar names on this roster that had appearances on the Kraken roster, are currently fighting for the Calder Cup final against the Hershey Bears.
Sure.
And as of this recording, they are up in the series 2-1. Won the first two pretty handedly, shutting them out with pretty significant scores. Game 3 going to overtime, just dropping that one. Not too bad in Hershey. I haven't watched any of these games, but I have watched the highlights. And man, all it does is make me, if they win the Calder Cup, like 2 fucks less. But AHL is just basically like mercenaries. But I'm very excited about a lot of the prospects on this squad and them eventually making it up to the Kraken roster next year.
Yeah, I think a lot of this team is a little older, right? I think they definitely have some guys that are a little older, but at the same time, yeah, you got guys, Cartier, again, playing good down with the team.
I
He's
really
been with
think
all
that
year.
he makes the roster, man.
I think so too. There's no doubt in my mind, unless they bring someone that's just ridiculously good in, Jesper Brad or something they bring in.
Yeah.
Or I don't know what the plan is there, but yeah, the team looked so good through 2, and like we were saying, I think before the podcast even started, even a 5-4 overtime loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those, like, that is game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals, right? That's a Hershey kind of just stole it, right? They got kind of lucky,
Sure.
right? Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how Coachella jumps back, right? But I think, yeah, I just, from what I've been reading and watching highlights from this team, yeah, it's just, yeah.
I mean,
Kraken might have the AHL winner, dude.
Is Joey Dackard set an AHL record? I think back-to-back shutouts in the Calder Cup final.
Yeah,
first time ever, or at least in a very long time.
I watched an interview with him too. He's got a little bit of a personality too, man.
I like that.
Yeah, he seems like a cool dude.
Old Daiquiri's gonna be that guy's gonna be with this team for quite a while, which is funny because I think we would, if we had our money on it, it would have been Drieger, but
yeah,
who knows?
Yeah, I think Drieger's got one more year left, so it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do. I wouldn't be surprised if for next year they just run Drieger as the backup goalie in Seattle.
Oh,
just
really?
Because I'm interested to see his contract. I think his contract is more than likely is a one-way, right? So whereas Dackard could come up and go back down depending on that stuff, and
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So my guess is that's what it is, but who knows? Maybe they buy out Drieger too. I mean, Dackard is clearly ready to go. So.
Yep, I agree. Very cool. All right. Let's get into some actual NHL news now, because we have had we're not even to the draft yet. We've got some drafts. What, 28th?
That's a great question. I believe you're right. I think it's like a week or 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, we're coming up on the NHL draft, and we've already had a few moves, a lot of front office kind of shit, but also some player moves as well. I think the first thing that we should probably talk, let's talk about the big shakeup. Let's get into the whole Toronto drama.
Yeah.
So for those who have not been living, even if you're not a fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs, you're like force fed updates on the Toronto Maple Leafs if you follow hockey at all. So Kyle Dubas let go after he said he needed to think about if he wanted to be the GM some more. He's let go from Toronto and is rumored to be talking to a bunch of teams. It comes out that while Dubas is putzing around and meeting with Sidney Crosby in one-on-one meetings, Brad Treliving is announced as the replacement and the GM for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But before the initial announcement comes out, 30 minutes before that scheduled press conference, the Penguins come out and say that they have hired Dubas as president of hockey operations.
Love the pettiness.
Oh, the pettiness is so there. Absolutely, just undercutting every the big news from there. So the moves for both teams. Let's focus on Pittsburgh first. This all had to, basically, the decision, the direction, it all had to do probably with that meeting that Dubas had with Crosby, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, you're a fly on that wall. What's that conversation like? What is Dubas goes up, they have their initial bullshit. What is Dubas saying to Crosby?
Dubas is saying, Crosby, you're going to Montreal. We're gonna fully rebuild.
Okay.
No, he probably was just feeling him out. I think it's a good move, right? You gotta, that's your star player, right? You gotta meet with him. You gotta see kind of what you can feel the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feel if it's lukewarm. Feel if Crosby's like, no, I got another cup in me,
Right.
So you have to do that, and so I like that Dubas did that. I I have no idea what the direction is going to be. I think the draft will be telling. I think if Pittsburgh goes in the draft and basically says, we're going to keep our pick, but potentially make a move, excuse me, at the draft. I, we know which direction they're going. So yeah, I think having that conversation, I think it is telling, right? That he
Mm-hmm.
didn't, he had that conversation with Crosby, didn't include. I know the other two big names there are obviously Malkin and Letang, right? Yeah,
Right.
didn't quite have those conversations with them to where maybe it is, maybe it's hey, Sid, what do you think? You have your cups, right? What do you think about kind of being a mentor towards the next crop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about our franchise, and I got to do my job, and you're kind of at towards the end of your job, right? So
Right.
um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think it's a great move. I think Dubas probably went to Shanny and was like, "Hey, Shanny, I want your fucking job," and Shanny was like, "Piss the fuck off, get the hell out of here." You know what I mean?
There
So
was definitely there was always rumors throwing that there was a power struggle.
yeah,
Shanahan was always cutting Dubas off at the knees. Um, there was some interesting rumored trades out there that I don't want to even give credence to because obviously they didn't happen, but it'd be interesting to see if those actually came out. Um, I think you're right on this in the sense that like that meeting with Crosby, I think in so many words it had to have come down to Dubas asking Crosby, okay, you can retire a Penguin or you can have another kick at the can.
hmm
You can't do both.
right,
Like if you want to, I'm giving you the respect of saying like if you want to retire a pen, great, I will make sure that that happens. But I cannot promise you that this will be a winning team because of it.
these cupboards are fucking dry, bro.
Right. Or it's like, dude, I can if you want one more kick at the can, great, but it's not going to be with us.
Yeah,
So I will do everything that I can to get you to where you want to go. And I think that's probably the honest conversation that happened because I don't see any other scenarios for the Penguins. Like this is unfortunately a team that had tremendous success. They're they're on the tail end of an amazing era, an incredible run. This was as much as I hated them, that you have to give respect where credit is due. And I mean, they won back-to-back cups. There hasn't been a team that's done that for quite a while. It's impressive. It's
yeah.
impressive. So I think walking in, if
I,
Dubas tries to do a retool, try to gear up and arm up for one more run, he's gonna have to be ballsy about it.
I think to add on to that, because I agree. I think if we were to see that scenario, right, the third scenario where you're saying Crosby's going somewhere else to get a cup, or I'm doing a full rebuild and Crosby's just going to help the young guys come up. I think
Mm-hmm.
if we were to see that third scenario where it's like, hey, Crosby, we got 2 good years left, right? Let's go for it. You would have seen them, and maybe they were. Maybe we're not insiders, right? We don't know. You would have seen them go hard after Provorov. You would have seen them go hard after Severson, right? You would have
Yep.
seen them go hard after a fucking goalie, and they didn't, right? I mean, it's just
Let's
you know,
bear in mind that Dubas is president of hockey operations. He has yet to hire a GM. They've hired Spezza on, right,
right, as the assistant.
as the assistant to the GM.
No, assistant to. Oh, maybe it is GM.
Yeah,
It's
but I don't think
assistant
that.
to GM or hockey ops.
But I
So
don't
he's
think Dubas
either.
has tapped anybody for GM, right? Has he?
Mm-mm,
Uh-uh.
mm-mm.
So that space is still open, and that'll be an interesting dichotomy because it'll be a situation where like, oh, who's calling the shots kind of thing.
Yeah,
That'll be interesting to see. I genuinely think that Dubas is going to at least it'll be exciting. At least it'll be fun. Like there's too many fucking teams in this league that are just sitting on their hands. We talked, I mean, this is a consistent fucking theme throughout this whole episode, is that there's too many teams in this league that just are too afraid to fucking make that trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm a weirdo, dude. I actually like rebuilds.
Yeah.
And it's just because I'm a fucking prospect, dude. I like seeing, who's
But
going to
be
be the next guy.
aggressive in your rebuild.
But be aggressive. I completely agree. I think there's a guy.
Don't just be bad for bad's sake. Like, there's a difference between tanking for a year or two to to get the rebuild going, right, versus like inviting this. Like, this is the problem with Buffalo. Like, Buffalo just has a lose. I understand they're now climbing out of it, but for what feels like the last 20 years, Buffalo just has this losing culture. Like, yeah, it couldn't be scripted better. They start out well with the first 15 games of the season, and then they fucking drop off.
Yeah. So let me comment on that real quick.
Yep, hit me with it.
I think so. This is why the only potential way that you can see option 3 happen is because they're not getting a good enough deal at the trade deadline, or not a good enough deal at draft day. Guys like Gensel and Russ, those are good players for teams that needed to be moved at the trade deadline, right? Or needed to be moved, prior, right? I think that's the only way I could see a potential loading up to see, hey, let's see if we can do it one more year. That's the only way I could see that option happening. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what they do in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no, I'm pulling up their roster right now on Daily Faceoff. I mean, there's just not a lot of, you just don't have a lot to work with here.
Raquel's another trade chip.
Maybe someone will take Zucker, but you're not getting a huge return for him. It's more of like a hoping that he's going to rebound.
Zucker's a deadline 3rd, 4th for the eventual Cup winner, right?
Yeah,
like, that's his kind of player.
But we're at the point where, I mean, names that, maybe 5 years ago would have carried some weight. Jeff Carter and Granlund, if you sell them now, you're paying somebody to take those guys.
Sure.
Like, that contract is just massive, like terrible on the Granlund thing, and Jeff Carter's fallen off a cliff.
Yeah. But I think that's,
and you can't deplete this decor anymore.
God damn, dude.
You're squeezing blood from a stone. What are you gonna do?
Petrie, maybe. I mean, and if you dig deeper,
what are you gonna get for him? What are you gonna get for him? A second?
Yeah, maybe a second. And this draft, that's not bad, but I think, and if you dig even deeper into the situation that Dubas is coming into, they have like a bottom 5 prospect pool, right? Like this team is fucking barren, dude. Like, yeah. I think you do have to go scorched earth with this team, unfortunately, just the way it's built out.
I don't see how you could squeeze it anymore. They've been squeezing it. That Burke and then the guy before him have been trying to pull a Kenny Holland, where you're just trying to keep the game going.
Yeah. Like,
you're trying to make the magic, the show must go on. So you continue to roll. Like, I look at this roster and I get, 2012, 2014 Red Wings vibes, where the names are still there, but the names don't carry as much weight. And this team is just, it's setting into the sunset. And instead of doing what they should be doing and rebuilding, they're just trying to squeeze out as bit as you can. And that's what Ken Holland did. And that's why Red Wings fans are incredibly patient with Steve Yzerman, is because they know the situation that he was left. Like, there's after, fun fact, and not to bring this back to the Red Wings, but like, of that era, the only Red Wing left is Larkin. Everyone else is gone.
Yeah.
Now that Bertuzzi and Hronek are out, everyone's gone.
What was Larkin drafted?
I don't know. Probably look that up.
Let me see.
Dylan Larkin, born 1996,
15th.
Drafted 15th overall.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. But on the other end of the spectrum, though, if you're Brad Treveling, I think that's how you say it.
Oh, that was True Living, but sure, whatever.
True Living, there you go. I don't know what it is.
I have no idea.
It's Toronto. I don't give a shit.
Sure, it's a boring, and this is a boring pick. Like for as much excitement as we got with like new names and new ideas and whatnot, then we got a fucking whole cavalcade of, oh, let's just recycle old fucking coaches.
Yeah.
And GMs. Like, oh, Brad True Living. That guy that like picked a coach that basically completely poisoned the well in our locker room. And
then traded away the eventual front runner for the Conn Smythe until the fucking Stanley Cup Finals.
Right. Like, and has has little to no more playoff experience than the guy we just fired.
Right.
Yeah, let's bring him on.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, that'll be great. He's gone in 2 years, dude.
Well, no, I think Shanahan's the man in charge, and that's the problem. Is that I think Shanahan, the Toronto Maple Leafs are not like a normal team where the GM or the president of hockey operations has full confidence. Like it's delegated by like a board, and the board goes to Shanahan. They tell Shanahan what to do, and then it goes to the you're never going to win that way.
What a 2023 way to run a fucking hockey team.
It's so dumb.
How's that work?
You got to be if Vegas has shown us anything, and this is a copycat league, so I'm hoping that people take notes and follow Vegas's footsteps. But you got to be aggressive. You got to want to fucking win.
Yeah.
You're just not gonna fucking do it.
Yeah.
If you don't try to actually be aggressive and make moves.
And
that's why I love and we can jump into Columbus right now. Jarmo Kekalainen, the GM for that man, you know what? Columbus has been up and down. I get it.
He's got some stones on him.
He's got some fucking stones. You know, he's trying. He knows that his squad isn't doing right, so we need to. He's not even waiting for the draft. We're 3 weeks away from the draft, and he's already acquired 2 very solid defensemen.
Yeah, Provorov. People are so fucking just excited about Provorov.
I'm not saying that he's not.
He's better than they had. Yes, he's better than they had. That's for sure.
With 2 moves, they have upgraded their defense.
Provorov has 140 plus point season, 41 points, and he's not a good D, dude. I don't know.
He's an offensive defenseman, and he's been on a very bad Philadelphia Flyers team. Like when Carter Hart is putting out. Look, I am not trying to say that Ivan Provorov is an elite defenseman. I'm saying that he's a solid, good upgrade to a very weak D core that Columbus had. Bringing on Severson from New Jersey.
That one's better, and
that's a fine piece of work.
They gave up less for him. Yeah. That's a better player, and they gave up less than they did for Provorov. That's what blows my mind.
Yep. That's a fine piece of work, and that was a sign and trade too. You don't see many of those nowadays.
That's pretty rare.
So that's a fine piece of work, and they've been rumored to be kicking tires on goalies. Do I think that Elvis Merzlikins is bound to have a better year than he had last year? Yes, 100%. And with the upgraded squad, it's you got Johnny Gaudreau, Gaudreau, Line, you got Renski coming back. Like Columbus is bound to have a mild. They're just certainly not going to be as bad as they were last year.
They're definitely, and they're about to draft a eventual top line center. It doesn't matter if they go with Carlson or Fantilli falls to them. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. It's either of those guys are a top line center in the league.
Yeah, no, I
which is what they need.
Looking at this lineup right now, like Gaudreau, Jenner, and Line is a fine first line. There's no problem with it. You don't need to tweak that. Your second line, this is where Marchenko and Roslovic are solid pieces. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're still developing. Like they're kind of young, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got that. Kent Johnson. Aren't you pretty high up on that guy?
Oh, he's a fucking stud.
Okay, yeah. So Kent Johnson's so that's a young second line with a lot to prove. Mm-hmm. Then you get then there's just no depth on this team is the problem. Liam Foudy, Cole Sillinger, Bemstrom. I don't even know who Bemstrom is. Crowley. You've heard that name somewhere.
Yeah.
Matthew Oliver and Eric Robinson. This is just a team that's very top heavy and doesn't have any depth whatsoever. And then once Werenski goes down, you had no defenseman whatsoever.
Well, Adam Boqvist, dude, come on.
No.
That's it, bro.
Yeah, we'll put it this way.
Or something like that.
We'll put it this way. He played all season, as a top pairing D guy last year. All they did is acquire 2 defensemen in the offseason, and now, according to Daily Faceoff, he's now he's their 6th, 7th guy right now.
Sure. Yeah.
Goes to show how bad the defensive core was. And when you get better defensemen, you might get some better play from Elvis Merzlikins. Do I think that Elvis needs some backup or, to split the load with? Totally. I don't think Tarasov is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong. It's just listening to people talk about Ivan Provorov. Obviously, there's the whole LGBTQ shit.
Oh, I don't even care about that.
But there is some
that's off ice bullshit. I talk about on ice shit.
Technically, that was on ice, but
okay, you know what I mean.
Yeah, but for what they gave up for him, that's almost top line D stuff, and he's not. He's a second pairing at best kind of guy.
He's a second line defenseman.
He's okay. I don't know. There's just yeah, you can't just point at a bad team. There was good players on that fucking team even last year, right? Konechny had a good fucking season. D'Angelo wasn't bad, right? And Provorov was still garbage. He's not. He's to me, he's not a third D pairing. I won't go that far, but he's your 4th D on a team. He is, and he's making $6 million. Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, on this Columbus team, he's your 3rd.
Well, yeah, but that's just...
I understand. I'm just saying, on this Columbus team, he's your 3rd defenseman. And that's what they need right now. Say they go out and they pick up Petrie, or, say the Red Wings finally get tired of Ben Sherratt or whatever. Like, you add that depth piece, and then, now he drops to 4th. But at the moment, he's their 3rd best defenseman.
They won't do that, and the reason they won't is because they actually have David Jiricek from last year is a very good defenseman, and so he'll be with the big club next year and probably fit in on that second line, probably with Provorov. I would assume you'd see Provorov and Jiricek. But yeah, I don't disagree. I like to see what Kekalainen's doing, and I don't think they're done. I think there's plenty more that they can do.
Nope.
When you have Patrick Laine and Johnny Gaudreau, those guys aren't going to wait around a long time.
Nope.
So you got to do something, and he has. He knew where his holes were, because as soon as Werenski went down, you had 3 third pairing Ds, right? And you're fucked. And you don't have a top line center unless you think the whoever you draft, Carlson or Fantilli, is going to come in and instantly be that top line guy. He's probably not done. I think he probably still needs a little bit of help down the middle. So
right. Yep.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but yeah,
right.
I like what they're doing. So
yeah, they're fucking trying. They're
trying.
There are so many teams in this fucking league where they just sit back and they wonder why my team's not getting better. Like, you can only, yes, it's a wonderful success story, and I'll admit it's much more satisfying if you can make the distance with talent that you've homegrown. I totally understand that mentality. That being said, it just doesn't always work. Like, that's almost the definition of catching lightning in a fucking bottle, Like those Red Wings teams that, not to lead everything back to the fucking Red Wings, but like those teams that were successful, the amount of luck that came from having Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsyuk on the fucking roster. Those guys were late draft picks.
Yeah, who were their first rounders from those fucking drafts? Because those guys probably were fucking nowhere.
I don't know.
Yeah,
absolutely no idea. So the fact that those guys are on this roster and made those what it is, like, it rarely happens. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a combination of talent. Okay. And in Vegas's case, they did both. Yes, they've got a core 5 or 6 misfits from their initial expansion draft. Then they've got the pieces that they went out and bought. And then they actually have some homegrown talent. Zach Whitecloud. Amadio? Michael Amadio?
Is that... Let's see here. Okay, so trivia question. I don't know.
So all right. Well, so here, look, rapid fire, real quick. So Ivan Barbashev was an acquisition. Jack Eichel was an acquisition. Marchessault is an OG. Mark Stone was an acquisition. Chandler Stevenson was an acquisition. Brett Howden. I don't know what Brett Hutton
Acquisition.
was.
He would have been. I think he was with Winnipeg.
Okay,
And
so an
yeah.
acquisition. Riley Smith is OG. Willem Carlson, OG. Michael Amadio is homegrown.
It's good to know.
Will Carrier is an OG. Nick Waugh is either, if he's not OG, he's like 1 year removed from OG. Like he was an acquisition, but he was in like year 2.
Yeah.
Nick Waugh's been on this team for quite a while.
Why? Buffalo, maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'd have to think about it, but I feel like he's been on Vegas for quite a while. Because I remember when the trade happened, they used to call him a shit disturber, which is fucking fantastic and just disturbing.
Sounds like a terrible career choice.
Oh God, or a great one depending on which way you swing. Yeah, Keegan Kolazar, homegrown. Alec Martinez, acquisition. Bertangelo, acquisition. Braden McNabb, OG. Shady Theodore, OG. Nick Haig, I think he's an OG.
That sounds right.
Zach Whitecloud's homegrown. Aiden Hill is an acquisition, quick acquisition. So yeah, I mean, most of this team was assembled.
It's a good mixture.
So you've got a little bit of everything, whereas it's just I get it. Sometimes GMs just don't have the flexibility of going it. Like maybe their owners just like I'm not giving you any money to spend. Like fuck you.
Sure.
Like make it work with our kids. Great, awesome, love to do that. Like that's probably the frustrating part of being an Arizona Coyotes GM. You know, like
you have to draft.
Right. There's you literally have zero money to go. You can't go buy any players.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. So I think that's the frustrating part, but I hope that this sets a precedent of like, it's showing, hey man, you gotta take risks to win the fucking Stanley Cup. And I hope we get to the point where even if you shoot your shot and it doesn't work, like I would rather respect that than somebody who just sits on their fucking hands and hopes for the best.
Yep. I think it's becoming, well, I mean, I don't know. Dubas shot his fucking shot. So they brought in some pieces this year.
And I give him all the credit in the world. You know what? Toronto did not do well, not because of him.
Right.
He has assembled a great roster. I don't think anybody would, even non-Toronto fans, you and I, would look at that roster and go, it's on paper, it's talented.
Yeah.
Like it's on paper in an NHL 2023 simulation, this team will do well. Yeah, so it comes down to coaching and it comes down to the actual players and the chemistry and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not his job. His job is to put the pieces on the board.
Very true.
So there's that. All right, let's wrap up the show real quick with some quick coach chat. Taylor, tell me a little bit about the new Ducks coach.
Yeah, Ducky's got a new coach. They're going the AHL route again, which is you don't love. But I think
weren't the goals pretty successful though?
What's that?
Aren't the goals pretty successful though?
Well, so they pulled him from the Colorado Eagles.
Oh.
Goals were garbage this year.
Oh,
okay. They were good under Eakins. I think Eakins. So I used to have an old boss, loved him to death, but we called him Squishy.
Okay.
So and I think Eakins was squishy. I think Eakins he did let the kids kind of do their thing, but he didn't have any systems. Like he was garbage, dude. I don't know. He's never gonna have an NHL job again. This guy, he's a little more, just a little more structured, right? And I think he puts more of an emphasis on defense, right? So even Zegras very well could have 50 to 60 points next year, trying to adjust to the coach's system. But he's going to be a better player in the long run because he's going to have some of these defensive, qualities just absolutely imprinted into his brain. So, I mean, to be honest with you, it depends who they draft. I think this is going to be a very young team for the next 2-3 years. Ducks have done really well drafting, especially defensemen recently. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where some of those they like in each of the junior leagues they had the defenseman of the year. which is pretty impressive. So like this coach, I think it's the first time ever that it's happened. So
Nice.
like this coach is coming into a nice situation. I'm just spacing on his name, so I keep saying this coach.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, it'll be good.
Fuck him.
I honestly, fuck him.
Name's not
Yeah,
important.
he's garbage.
Yeah.
No, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think you know, yeah, he's been around a long time. He's been an assistant coach in the NHL. He's been a head coach in the AHL. He's just kind of he's like 60 years old. Like he's been around the block. So yeah, it's going to be another trying season for the Ducks, and it's just because they're super young. Gibby wants out, right? So
Yeah.
they're going to
He's
be
made that
even
very
younger.
clear.
Yeah, and good for him.
Understandably so.
He's put up with some shit. He put up with 4 years of Dallas fucking Eakins.
Yeah.
That guy gets whatever he wants, dude. He is a god. So
it's funny. Our next episode will most likely be our draft preview. Yeah. But we are while free agency looks pretty boring, we are set to have a very interesting off season because of the number of players that are wanting out. Very interesting players, like names like Gibson and Hellebuck and Scheifele and PLD. Like these names are coming out where, it looks like a situation where Winnipeg might be forced into a rebuild because nobody wants to re-sign there. So that's
nobody wants to buy season tickets apparently there either. So
fuck God, begging the fan base. We want our team here.
Yeah.
Caps get a new coach.
Yep.
I don't know anything about this guy. Apparently he was Toronto's assistant coach or something.
Yeah. Highly sought after.
Okay.
Yeah, assistant coach. I think fresh blood in there. He's gonna have to fucking cater to Ovi. So who knows?
He's a placeholder coach. Like he's not. They're bringing him in not to win. He's there to supervise the chase to the record and make sure that the team doesn't fall apart. I'm not trying to insult. I'm not trying to insult him. It's just like you have to be realistic of where you're at, and you're not going to. You don't bring on, a Bruce Cassidy, a Pete DeBoer, a Gallant, you don't bring these guys on right now where the Caps are at, because the Caps aren't going to make Caps probably won't make the playoffs next year. Very early prediction.
Spencer Carberry. Yep. Yeah, this is clearly if he does well while Ovi's there, right? It's given him a chance to have success in the NHL and potentially get an NHL job or keep his NHL job as soon as Ovi's gone, right? So yeah. I don't mind this one at all.
Nope, absolutely. All right. Last big coach hire. The coach equivalent of Lithium, Peter Laviolette, goes to New York. Peter Laviolette, if you're a longtime listener to the show, I don't have any really respect for Laviolette. I think that you hire Laviolette when you go, fuck, I can't think of anybody else. Is there anybody else? No? Well, we have to have a coach next year, right? Yeah, the league won't let us. Gary will call me up. You have to have a coach next year.
Do we?
And they're like, oh, fuck. All right, we'll hire Peter. He's always available, right? Yeah. He's not. He doesn't have a job right now.
Yeah,
well, of course he does.
They like escort him out of the office and they look around the fucking lobby.
Yeah,
it's like, anybody else? Anybody else here? Nope, just Peter. Okay,
just Peter. All right, we'll take it. Now, him and they're just coaches that I guess I respect. Like I know that they're probably know the game and whatnot, but they're those guys that just don't have a history of really doing anything. I did look into Laviolette's background. Like his last success is kind of like Tortorella. Like he had some success in the early 2000s and hasn't really been able to replicate it since. Bruce Boudreau, it comes to mind, is another name of like coaches that they're just there to kind of right the ship and they can't really think of anything clever. So we'll go with tried and true, safe.
Sure.
I just don't see this. To me, I know that they probably won't see it this way, but I see hiring Laviolette as New York is kind of waving the white flag. Like I just don't see them taking a next step with Laviolette. In fact, this is a downgrade from Gallant.
Yeah, I agree. And they're gonna retool. I could see them. They're gonna get rid of one of Kakko or Lafreniere. I can tell you right now. It just those guys. They've mismanaged them, but they haven't worked out either.
So Kaner's gone, right?
Yeah, Kaner's gone. He was on an expiring
contract. Is Senko gone too?
Yeah, Tarasenko will be gone.
Okay, so you're in a situation where you've got some money to play with at least.
Yeah, he doesn't move the needle. I completely agree, especially in the East.
At
To
best,
me, yeah,
at best, he doesn't move the needle. At worst, in my opinion, he's a downgrade.
yeah, they could easily miss the playoffs next year with Laviolette behind the bench.
I don't think that guy brings anything to a team. Like he
And
doesn't.
it's interesting because a name that kind of popped up as a potential landing spot in the Rangers was Patrick Waugh after winning the Memorial Cup, right? His second one I think he's won as a coach. So
He stepped down from the Quebec team.
Yeah.
Making himself available.
Yeah. And so it's interesting that they apparently the word was they didn't even like consider him. Which is interesting because I think can you imagine Patrick Waugh with Shesterkin? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
What a sweet deal. The other one, I don't know if we talked about it. I think we did on the last one, maybe. But Andrew Burnett's still a fucking great hire for Preds with Trotz as the GM. God, what a dynamic duo. I really liked Burnett. I wanted Burnett to be the Ducks coach, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's some other rumors and stuff that we could dive into, but I think that that's probably best saved for the draft episode. So,
sure.
And we're also 136, not bad. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Good.
Pretty good.
Look
all right, folks. Appreciate you guys being patient with us. I know that we skipped a week, but that's just it's just the nature of the beast with summer. So now that that's over, expect an episode from us every other week. But we're gonna make it fun. We'll bring in news, talk about special topics, maybe even have some fun games on here. Who knows? Maybe even some interviews. So we'll definitely have some fun. We actually have a huge announcement for the end of July that we'll be at, but we'll keep that under wraps for now. We got a little time to stew about that. So
yeah.
Without further ado, Taylor, anything else?
Yeah, next one will be fun. It'll be fun to kind of just dig into who the Kraken could potentially draft. So yeah, because they have a few holes that they need to fill. So it'll
Definitely.
be interesting to see what they
and of course, please follow us on social media. We're very active on Twitter and Facebook. So jump onto those platforms, give us a follow and a like, and follow us and subscribe to us. Subscribe to us on whatever podcatcher that you're on.
Hell yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks.